there are a lot of different things that I kind of weighed in going into the political stuff. But I actually made a crucial error in terms of things that I was considering. It's something that I actually f this up a lot, and I should have been a little bit more careful here, because I didn't really consider Mark's, like, I want to say ability to endure, but that sounds really dismissive. I'm not trying to imply that there's any problem with Mark or anything. I think that Mark is an awesome guy, but the amount of like public vitriol and everything is incredibly taxing, and I forget that sometimes. That like I think most normal human beings are just not able to deal with that. There's an unbelievable amount of pressure and stress, especially when people are attacking you, that can come from a lot of unfortunately surprising places. And yeah, yikes. Yeah, oof. Like Mark might not be sufficiently familiar with this level of vitriol, not at the level that it was happening. I don't really know how much I want to say publicly. Suffice to say that it was a lot worse than even I thought it would be. There were a couple things that were going on behind the scenes for people attacking him in ways that I didn't even think that was possible. Holy shit. So, like things that were like potentially threatening like his job and even career, which like blew my mind. Can you ask me in a couple of years? Yeah, you can ask me like a month, I guess, probably actually. To be clear on like, I guess, because a lot of people are saying like, this is the lefties. This wasn't actually the lefties this time. It was actually like hardcore id poll, hardcore id pollers. The obsession with, I guess like the next Omaha mayor for a lot of these people has to be like a black woman, because there's two running, and they're like very much obsessed with that point to like a really crazy amount. Jeez. What's the difference? Lefties usually do different things than like extremist progressive / id poll duders. They're kind of it's a different group of people. Id poll is like identity politics or whatever. Yeah, I guess we can call them white liberals, maybe. Wasn't there like 3 communists? Yeah, on Twitter there were, but I think that the lion's share of at least these people, isn't that mentally unironically racism? Maybe, I don't know. I can never tell with this Jedi pork chop guy. I can never tell if your comments are, because I know you post a lot of dumb shit. How come you didn't complain about this in the Democratic primaries when people were complaining about Warren being white? There was even a question on a debate towards Bernie on white a white guy was running. I don't even understand. I don't know what you're implying. That I thought that it was good when people were doing massive identity politics in the Democratic primary. Does that sound like a position that I ever had? I don't know if I have ever been of that position ever, but I guess so this kind of bothered me, I guess. We'll go over this. I don't know how much of this I revealed yesterday in terms of like all the kind of like digging around in the weeds that I was trying to do to figure out like what was going on behind the scenes, because we always hear chatter and we see things posted on public Facebooks and everything, and yeah. So let's see. So this lady wrote her hit piece on me that she published this morning, and holy yikes. I'll say I was more than a little bit disappointed with how she chose to approach this article, with the things that she added, with the things that she didn't add, and then with the other things that she never even asked me about, which was pretty insane to me. I'll just kind of like read down this. I don't really expect anything to come from this. I guess I'm probably going to go ahead and guess that the entirety of this newspaper is probably like very, very, very like id poll progressive leaning. So my guess is they're all probably ideologically aligned here, so they don't really give a fuck. I'll just read it down, I guess. Do I want to read this down? I wrote this a little dramatically. I don't know if I need to. Here's my name. I'm a Twitch streamer. I think that outside, or broadly speaking, I think one of the things I'm most well known for is de-radicalizing people from the right. When that was a thing, although it's not as much of a thing anymore, I guess. Here's 3 articles that are referencing that. The 2 profiles that they did of me, and then the New York Times piece on Caleb. I've recently attempted to spin up an organization to mobilize youth into direct local political action. Our first efforts were in Georgia, where we knocked on over 20,000 doors in support of John Ossoff and Reverend Warnock. For my next effort, I wanted to focus on my hometown where my 9-year-old son lives, so we could mobilize enough volunteers to get a progressive candidate elected to office. Predictably, people started attacking the efforts of both my volunteers and the local candidate I supported by digging up old, out-of-context videos to imply that I either don't support BLM or support violence against protesters. Neither of these things could be further from the truth. What I'm most frustrated about is how dishonest some local media and business owners have been about portraying what's been going on. So on March 1st, I received an email from Hannah Bussa of UNO's The Gateway, laying out 3 questions for me to answer for an article she intended to publish the next day. So I try not to be too conspiratorial when I read stuff, but it's pretty obvious like what she's aiming for in her article here. Why do you support Mark for mayor? What policies do you like of his? Why are you involved in the Omaha mayoral race as you now live in California? Do you have anything to say about the comments you made about protests last summer? This article was due the next day. It's pretty clear that this is like on the general narrative of like, you're an outsider. What are you doing coming to Omaha? Like, why are you doing this? Blah, 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 blah. But I made my best faith effort to answer as much as possible what I could in this email. So I listed out what I feel like was a pretty comprehensive response. I gave 3 of Mark's big policy positions that I support. And I have a very personal reason for 2 of these. The marijuana decriminalization is important to me. My best friend Chris literally killed himself because he took a marijuana charge and he didn't feel like he could deal with it. And then the Omaha Promise I thought is a cool idea because I flunked out of music school because I couldn't afford going to school. I had to work too much. So these 2 things are like personal to me. I think that they'd be really cool ideas. Mark is the only candidate in the race that has like detailed policy positions, not just one paragraph under a bolded headline to actually accomplish these things. So I appreciated that. And then the 3rd one is like a move to local politics. So I feel like I answered this question decently well. The second one was, I do kind of live in California right now, but I move around a ton. I usually live back in Omaha. Like, I think I have a son that lives there. I think that I have like decent roots to the city that I don't think my loyalty to Omaha or whatever is questioned. And then on the 3rd one, in regards to my comments, for the Kenosha stuff, I think I answered this pretty extensively. I admit that I am prone, I'll just read my response, I guess, verbatim to this. We went over this yesterday. I don't remember if I read this whole thing. I think I did. But unfortunately, due to the nature of what I do online, my undeniable hot-headedness at times, I'm prone to speaking hyperbolically when I'm in the middle of an argument with someone. Out of a larger 20-plus minute debate with someone, a short 16-second clip was cut to make it sound as though I support violence against Black Lives Matter protesters, when this couldn't be further from the truth. I'm incredibly heated in this clip, but I'm clear when I say that my main frustration is with a few rioters burning down private businesses, and the idea that Trump's only path to victory was with continued arson and destruction of privately owned businesses across the U.S. Full conversation in August of 2020 with the context part clipped. And then I go on for 3 points. I've always defended the existence of BLM and its purpose. Here's, I think, 5 different links of me doing this throughout the years. Consistently push back against the White Lives Matter rhetoric. This is me on the Jesse Lee Peterson panel doing that.
Do you see an organization going around saying White Lives Matter? No, you don't.
It's because we know in America there's no question that white lives matter. The problem with the way that we treat Black lives in America is it seems like there is a lack of accountability whenever there would be extrajudicial killings of Black men by white cops. That's where BLM came from. It was the holding accountable these
these police precincts that have a vested interest in protecting their cops when it seems like they can always get away, or a lot of the time get away with murdering black men. Everybody agrees that a black man killing a black man or woman is wrong. Nobody's debating that. Everybody agrees that when a white person is killed, it's wrong. Nobody's debating that. The reason why BLM started was because it seemed like there was an accountability problem with police officers and being held accountable when they killed black people. That was the problem. You said it correctly. You said it correctly earlier. You said it correctly.
Let him talk. Let him speak. Let him speak.
You said it correctly earlier. BLM was created because of the extrajudicial killing of black men that didn't seem to be taken seriously by police departments. If you want to create an organization that talks about other types of like Black Lives Lost, by all means do that. But don't say that every single organization created needs to cater to every single issue.
I didn't say every single organization does, but I'm glad you brought up that point, because once again, only 13 unarmed black men were killed last year by the police, as opposed to 35 unarmed white men that were killed. So when we're saying like it's about police brutality, why don't they have a White Lives Matter? Why don't they have this type of thing? And if you are going to call yourselves Black Lives Matter, why isn't it everybody? Why not just call it Black Lives Matter when police get killed? Excuse me, when they get killed by police.
We have a White Lives Matter organization. It's called the United States of America. Nobody in the United States. Stay mad. Oh yeah, let me hear it. I love it. Yep.
Beta!
I love it. I love it. If a white guy gets killed, people aren't out here making all these excuses for why he should have been killed. Seems like it happens for black people more often than not. We saw it happen on stage earlier. I heard this gentleman say it over here. He had fentanyl in his system. If you want to create an organization to talk about black-on-black violence, do it. There's tons of different ways you can do that.
Continue defending, protesting, and even rioting against public institutions. Here's 3 separate debates with, I think, at least 1 or 2 high-profile people about this as well.
I am generally in support of large-scale protests that bring more awareness to how blacks are treated in the United States, whether it's through the health system or through our criminal justice system. I don't necessarily stand for like the hashtag defund the police or hashtag abolish the police movement, but I think like the 8 Can't Wait or the campaign or Project Zero, a lot of the recommendations that those guys make towards reforming policing, I think are very important conversations to have, and I hope that the BLM movements continue to raise awareness around those types of conversations. It has nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. This is the other funny thing. Like, lefties have made it so that defending rioters like is essential for you to support the protests or BLM. I support protests and BLM 100%. Doesn't mean I have to support rioters. The same way that just because I don't support the military doesn't mean I don't support the troops. Just because I don't want to fucking pledge to the flag doesn't mean I hate this country. Like, fuck you for trying to wrap it all up into the same fucking thing.
Fuck it, dude, ya.
If you want to interact with somebody, if you want to interact with a community of people, if those people feel like they have like massive fucking problems that impact them on a daily basis, right? If you're black in America, there's not really much you can do to like not be black for a day. Or I mean, I guess you could, maybe if you inject yourself. Some guy wrote a book about it or whatever. But like, Jesus Christ, like what a tasteless fucking statement, you know? Like you go to watch a bunch of dudes like play sports and like all they do is kneel during the national. You're like, guys, listen. All I want to do is watch a goddamn football game, and I can't even do it. I can't even watch football anymore without them taking a knee. I can't even watch football anymore. And I can't, because when I turn it on, I swear to fucking God, I can see on the 4 pixels on my 27,000-inch plasma screen TV, LCD screen TV, I could see them down there. I could see them taking a fucking knee, and God, it bothers me so much. These are the same people that are like, listen, dude, so what if being black is hard? Get over it. So what if being poor is hard? Get over it. So what if being born to fucking single family household is difficult? Like, get over it. So what if you don't have any job opportunities? So what if fucking cops treat you wrong? Just don't fucking do something to get their attention. So what, right? These are the people that for your whole lives tell you to pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. Don't beg for handouts from the government. Grow the fuck up and figure shit out. And he can't handle watching somebody kneel during the national anthem in a football game? This is your line? This is what breaks you? And you think you have the right to tell anybody else to overcome their circumstances? Well, you're almost in fucking tears.
So I feel like I answered this like as much as I could. I laid out my position for like, oh, I think defending property is, you know, decent. Like, we champion the Korean Americans for doing it, the Black Panthers in California for doing it. It would have been nice if people could have defended themselves at the Tulsa Massacre of 1921 when Black Wall Street was torched. I, in bold, put here, I unequivocally support BLM's right to both protest and riot against the public institutions that they view as oppressive. Like, I think that rioting against police and government buildings is good. Doesn't mean you have to defend every single part of it. I mean, I think it's like historically unprecedented for this many cities to have this many protests, and then countries around the world are protesting, I guess, as well in solidarity, some cities.
other countries too. So,
what do you think about it? What do you support that, or what do you think about?
Do you support the First Amendment or not?
No, not the protest necessarily.
Yeah, so
but the
I support.
excesses.
Listen, if people want to protest, I think that's great. If people want to riot against like public
Right,
institutions, if you want to blow up cop cars or cop precincts or public buildings, whatever, that's cool. Personally, not a fan of the looting stores and blowing up businesses and stuff. I feel like it's a little harder.
So
to
wait.
justify,
You're
but-
cool with blowing
reasonable.
up the cop cars, but just not the businesses. Okay.
Yeah, I think attacking public institutions is kind of a cornerstone of like American views of government, right? It's what all those Second Amendment guys might have forgot, but that was part of the big reasons why they defended that Second Amendment
Second
stuff was
Amendment
to fight against the
solutions.
tyranny of the government. Yeah,
we talked about
I mean, police wield exclusive, kill power on behalf of the state, so pretty worthy.
Monopoly
target
on
to protest.
violence. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole state there.
I also bring up down here that business lady, I tell her that she was making there's a fake Twitter account about me. She's threatening to send addresses where our volunteers are staying to strangers on social media. And she is also seeing weird claims about us aggressively pounding on doors and then inventing stories about my volunteers like being rude at her business. So this was more or less, can we see the original email chain? Well, this is it. The original email that she sent me was this, and then this is my response. That's the whole chain. It's just these two emails. So that was my response to that email. This is the article that she felt appropriate to write after that. Omaha mayoral candidate Mark Gudgel is currently facing questions regarding his connection to Stephen Bunnell II, a popular Twitch streamer and liberal advocate who is under fire for inflammatory statements he's made regarding the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm not really under fire at the moment. These are older comments, but in a clip from one of Bonnell's Twitch streams that recently surfaced on social media, it's not recent, but okay. Stephen Bonnell, known online as Destiny, said, "The rioting needs to fucking stop, and if that means like white redneck fucking militia dudes out there mowing down dipshit," she added this in brackets, "Black Lives Matter protesters." I don't know why she felt like this was appropriate to add. I don't know if this counts, if this is an appropriate bracketed quote. Feels a little bit crazy to me, but okay. Black Lives Matter protesters, if they think they can torch buildings at 10 p.m., then at this point, they have my fucking blessing, because holy shit, this shit needs to fucking stop. It needs to stop a long time ago. Here is what she took from my response to her. Responding to this clip, Bonnell said that he was frustrated that people misconstrued a 16-second cut from a larger conversation. This is the only part of my response that she includes in this entire article. In the full video, where Bonnell says optics are everything, implying that I don't actually care about these issues, he only added that he thought the rioting would give former President Trump a path to victory in the November election. His message about protesters did not change. In addition to the statement made in the full video, Bonnell said, "Then the white people are out there angry that their business is getting blown up when they're blowing away protesters, then everybody can just be angry and mad." I don't even know what the point of this quote is. The video was posted on August 31st, 2020, almost 3 months to the day after the death of James Scurlock, amidst similar violence that Bunnell promoted. Mark Gudgel's campaign was not officially discussed in the local media until September 29, 2020, nearly a month after the statement was made. In response to the clip being discussed on social media, Bonnell said, "I hope the people bringing this clip and its connection to Gudgel's campaign realize the real harm they are doing to democracy by discouraging political action with their attacks." However, in a feature Wired article on Bonnell, he seems to have a different idea about American democracy. "I think that people in general are stupid and I've actually lost my appreciation for democracy at this point." Imagine like digging through this entire article, this entire profile on me that guy did from Wired, to dig out that one quote. Other older videos and statements by Bunnell in the past have also come to light, including one where he uses the N word and the F slur. I don't know if we can listen to this anymore, but I'm pretty sure that in this I'm like describing that, like, it's not appropriate to use these words, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is the video that they decide to choose to show me using the N word and the F slur. Like... The Wired article also describes some other comments he made in the past, including telling like a sexual assault survivor, "I hope you get raped with a fucking shovel," which was a bad comment, of course. This is like 5 or 6 years ago, though. But like the only thing she did with this Wired article was just quote mine it for other damning shit. With these statements, many who, on social media, have questioned Bonnell's connections to Gudgel's campaign.
Bonnell currently lives in California, but his son still lives in Omaha. Bonnell is the founder of a group called the Omni-Global Movement. As an Omaha native, Bonnell decided to support an Omaha candidate for mayor. In a statement posted, blah, 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 Gudgel also distanced himself. However, his statement did not make a clear break with Bonnell. Nonetheless, while Bonnell may not have been a paid staff member, he has been actively supporting and fundraising for Gudgel's campaign. Bonnell featured Gudgel on his Twitch stream to do a Q&A. He was a guest on Gudgel's podcast and raised money for the campaign via PayPal. This PayPal link to this pool was not money for Gudgel's campaign. This is money for me to run my volunteering stuff. This might seem like a minor distinction, but it is incredibly important. I personally have never donated money to Mark. We've promoted like his canvassing link, or not canvassing. We promoted his website for people to donate if they want to, but I've never raised money in this manner. This money did not go to Mark. This is just completely and totally not true. Amelia Rosser, owner of Shillitown Market, has publicly discussed her concerns as an engaged community member. I learned that Gudgel's campaign was being largely supported by a subreddit community organized by Destiny, she said. Mark's campaign accepting Destiny's endorsement of support is problematic. Rosser has also been met by volunteers in her workplace. On February 27th, an employee of Destiny, I don't have an... I guess the people you call him an employee, who made it very clear he wasn't a campaign staffer, came into my shop. After a bit of waiting, the man conversed with and pressured Rosser about Gudgel's campaign and talking points. Rosser soon found out that this man and more volunteers were staying across the street from her business. He also came back the next day. It was unnerving as I felt I was being watched, she said. I did receive an email from Mark Gudgel. I replied with my experience and that I was not with any campaign. I told him that I did feel harassed. He has not responded to my concerns. Rosser said that this campaign strategy is not transparent and that accepting the endorsement of a problematic influence is unsettling for her. She also said she heard complaints about the volunteers aggressively knocking on doors. I've heard that they have been responding to those voting for the black women running that it isn't Mark's fault he's white, she said. Making it sound like my canvassers are out here playing this card is such a weird thing to say. I don't believe this was in our talking points memo. Interestingly, she says, of the whole situation, Rosser said, I come at this as somebody who is not part of any political campaigns during this election cycle, but instead as someone who smelled something fishy and found fish. And then there's an irrelevant quote from a protester who I don't know why this is included in here about shitting on Mark. And yeah, so just interesting things. Wait. Okay. There are a few conflicts of interest that I discovered that are upsetting to me. So these are things that I'm kind of going through and I'm wondering okay. So one is that Hannah, on her Facebook is literally, this is all public, her name is public, it's posted in the article. She literally supports Jasmine Harris. By the way, this is the campaign that everybody that we're fighting with is associated with. So she's literally on her Facebook, supporting another candidate, which is okay. She literally follows the campaign manager of Jasmine Harris. Jasmine Harris is the campaign manager as well. Harris's campaign manager fucking hates Mark. Every time I see Mark Gudgel say something about racial equity, I feel a little flare of indignant rage. He's got a BLM bracelet on his website. I want to rip it off. You don't get to co-opt a movement for personal gain. And I believe, I can't prove this, but I'm 99% sure that Harris's campaign manager was probably the one that was shipping this clip around. Okay, I don't know him, Destiny, but it sounds like he's got... Oh, no, I'm sorry. I don't know him, Mark Gudgel, but it sounds like he's got a long history of human rights work. Do you have some inside scoop? I'd personally prefer him over a real estate guy, but I'm still learning about all these folks. I'll message you. And then something else that I'd noticed is that UNO's paper, The Gateway, has only done 2 mayoral candidate write-ups. One was for Jasmine Harris, and then the other was for Kimera Snipes. These are the only 2 mayoral candidates that they've done write-ups about. They haven't done Neary, who was probably the front runner. They haven't done Gudgel, who's turned in his signatures. I could tell from the framing of her initial email to me that she was fishing for answers to paint me as an outsider or someone who shouldn't have any vested interest in Omaha, despite me living there for 30 years and having a son still being raised in the city. Knowing that Hannah was likely writing a hit piece on either Mark or myself, I took the time to write a detailed response to each of her questions, painstakingly explaining both my personal reasons for being involved and a clear explanation for how ridiculous it would be to imply that I don't support BLM or protesters. Despite my response, Hannah went ahead and published a partisan hit piece that leaves me with so many questions insofar as the Gateway's journalistic integrity is concerned. Number one, why would Hannah's takeaway from my response to her, where I include numerous times where I've defended BLM and protests, and even riots in some instances, be he only added that he thought the rioting would give former President Trump a path to victory in the November election. His message about protesters did not change. Why did she not include any additional context about prior statements I've made concerning BLM and protests? Number two, why would Hannah do so much research about me that she was able to find a Wired write-up that focuses on me de-radicalizing people, yet the only quote she would mine from it was, "I think that people in general are stupid and have actually lost my appreciation for democracy at this point." Why didn't she ask me for any comments on that profile? Number three, why would Hannah include falsifiable statements from Amelia Rosser claiming that my canvassers were harassing her business without asking me nor my canvassers for comment about any of their interactions? Christian has recorded at least one of these, by the way. Why did she include false statements Amelia Rosser is making, claiming that my canvassers are only responding with, "It isn't Mark's fault he's white," when supporters of other candidates are talking to them? That's not true. Why did Hannah include a blatant lie that I had raised money for the campaign via PayPal when I have never donated money to Mark's campaign, and that PayPal link wasn't a PayPal link to his campaign? Number five, why did Hannah neglect to mention that Amelia was giving away the addresses where volunteers were staying when I notified her as such? I included this in my email to Hannah. This is Amelia on Facebook. Yikes, there are far more affordable options in less than a $20 night studio. Are there like even any in that in Omaha? And Amelia's saying they're not in $20 night places. I know that. PM me if you want to know the locations. Why wouldn't she include that in her story? That's so incredibly fucking creepy. Why did Hannah include, of the whole situation, Rosser said, I come at this as somebody who is not part of any political campaigns during this election cycle, but instead as someone who smelled something fishy and found fish, in her article when Amelia Rosser is openly posting on her Facebook that she is supporting the two other candidates. Why is she pretending like Amelia is just some fair weather business person that doesn't really, have a vested interest, blah, 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 when Amelia is literally posting on her Facebook? Regardless of Mark's supposed passion for racial justice, it appears that he hasn't quite grappled with his white male privilege yet. If he had, he probably would understand that he shouldn't be in this race. There are two more than competent black women running. This is not his space to take up. White folks need to be intentional in making and creating space. He's putting the city of Omaha at risk by running in this race, although he might not think so. These points should indeed make us question his position in this race. With candidates like Jasmine Harris for mayor and Kimera Snipes, two black women running with authentic grassroots values, we should be actively engaged in this election cycle. Why did Hannah edit my statements to include the bracketed phrase, Black Lives Matter, before protesters? Why was it so important that this little bit of context needed to be added, but literally nothing of my response that she requested? I'm incredibly disappointed that Hannah also neglected to include any of the information I provided her to the first two questions. It seems as though none of these answers were viable to demonize me, so she decided to neglect them entirely. Someone who attended UNO for 3 years and had nothing but positive experiences, I'm ashamed that my alma mater would let such a low-quality piece make its way through into their newspaper. It upsets me that the paper is being used to attack the wonderful volunteers working in Omaha and to attack Mark Gudgel, an inspirational teacher who just wanted to lead Omaha to a more progressive future. Man, that article, though, holy yikes. Write-ups were only done by one person. It looks more like writer interest versus news coverage. I mean, you can say that, but I think when they covered my involvement, I think that it was written as like editorial. But when they covered her involvement of me, now it was editor's pick, news, local, politics. Wouldn't Mark pushing back on the claims from this article help his position? So the problem is that Mark is under an unbelievable amount of stress in his personal life for a lot of different reasons that are crazier than most of you could imagine.
So like, there's just not much that Mark can do at this point. I don't know how fair it is to like demand that he endures like so much. There's just a lot of stuff going on. Are you and Mark on good terms? No, we're fine. I like have nothing but love and respect for Mark. I think he's an awesome dude. I wish him best of luck, of course, in an unofficial manner, but would you actually sue or take any action? Like, I don't know what the success of anything like that is, but whether or not they stay in the race, I'm not sure. Are you willing to talk about this on the local Omaha radio /news? Yeah, but I just don't think there's much interest, unfortunately. I think that most of my talking points probably play better at this point into like more conservative talking points. And then I think that like when you look at just there is like this rabid obsession with like one of the two black women, as they say over and over again on their Facebook posts. It's all people. It's like the thing that sucks the most is it's like I think all the people driving this fervor are literally like 5 or 6 people, all from the same area, that are all kind of like tangentially related to Jasmine Harris's campaign. The saddest thing is that like people try to pretend like this is a huge liability when Jasmine Harris herself had like an assault and battery charge that she'd carried on her record that actually got pardoned by Mayor Stothert. Like, I don't know how people don't think that if Harris survived the primary, that wouldn't become like a central talking point in the general election. But it's whatever, dude. That was the thing that I was mentioning yesterday that one guy clearly didn't know about, but can't your canvassers just join Mark's campaign? I mean, they can do whatever they want to. It's up to them, but obviously in any official matter, I can't do it. Can you talk to IRI? He thinks Mark's having back. No. We've had a lot of communication. That's all I can say, but yeah. But that's our memes. For stuff we do in the future, who knows? I don't know. We'll think about it. We'll consider it. But this has been like a massive financial and time investment for me, and somewhat of like a mental, psychological investment as well, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on to make all this stuff work too. And if like the idea that everything can get so derailed by something so stupid is pretty upsetting, I guess. And it kind of feels at some point that I think that for me, if it was like a one-man project that I could work, I think I could do it forever. But I don't think it's good mentally for all of the volunteers that I request for this type of stuff if it feels like the entire world is kind of shitting on you when you're just trying to like get a progressive candidate elected. You know, when that includes like other progressive people online, moneymakers online that are like shitting on you for efforts, whether they succeed or fail, because they don't actually care about the outcomes of any elections. They just want to get more money online. I think it's a lot for people to deal with. That is probably too much. Why not run yourself? I considered it would be funny in 2024 to just do it. It would be funny just because I don't give a fuck, and that would be funny. And I've seen some of the process now in terms of like what it takes, like, but the problem is just that I don't want to be a mayor. I really don't want to be a mayor, so I don't know if I just don't. So I think that would come through in my campaigning. It would literally be if I ran for election, it would literally just be as like a giant shit post. that would be the entirety of what I was doing. So I don't think it would be healthy for the scene. Yeah. How were the other candidates with canvassing and outreach? Well, I mean, like, the ironic thing is that Mark was like so relentlessly positive when it came to talking about the other candidates as well, which has also been really disappointing. Like one example that I brought up, like Mark had been talking about, like, because he had us that like helped him get signatures or whatever, like he'd been talking about us like trying to get signatures for Dwayne, was another guy that was running. I don't remember if he mentioned Harris or Snipes' campaign initially or if they'd already had them, but like he was really big on working with and helping the other campaigns as well. That was like something like Destiny, he gave fucking food to another campaign staffer. Marcus, oh, maybe I didn't even see that if that happened. Oh, you messaged me on Discord. Yeah. Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed. Don't, no circle jerk shit, all right?